That's ridiculous, isn't it? But you would think...
Oh, sorry, go on.
You would think a film such as that, you know, Jaws-esque, I mean, even Jaws, how old is that movie? It had its fair share of gore for its time, didn't it?
Well, you had the scary head popping from underneath the boat.
The
famous scene of Captain Quinn being bitten in half. I think that's what you were about to say.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. Scared the life out of people.
A shark movie without gore, it's a bizarre concept.
No gore, Nathaniel. I wanted to see limbs being ripped clean off. I wanted to see the teeth, the mouth engulfing an arm, engulfing a leg, the jaw snapping shut, wrenching the leg off, the person struggling in the water, squealing like a pig. That's what I wanted to see.
I'm sure most people did, to be fair.
Well, if you're going to go and see a movie, Shark Night, that's what you want, isn't it?
Sure.
There was no nudity at all.
Again, another negative, surely.
The trailer, did you see the trailer?
Of course not.
Did that put you off?
No, I wouldn't even see the trailer.
You wouldn't even watch the trailer?
No.
The trailer suggested lots of flesh, not a bit of it.
Well,
the only...
Best of times.
Say that again?
Sorry, I'm going off the point, but I said you can't trust a trailer most of the time anyway.
Well, I mean, you're quite correct. The trailer is a marketing exercise, isn't it? It's a box-ticking exercise. See how many people we can convince that they'll like this film, even if once they've paid their money, they actually hate it.
Absolutely.
That's another black art, if you ask me.
It's very much a marketing ploy, and I could never get behind a cause like that. No.
The only vaguely positive thing I can say about this was that the actual shark effects were pretty good.
Right.
But to be honest, that's a bare minimum.
That is a bare minimum of quality, surely, yeah.
I'm grovelling there. I'm struggling to find anything positive to say.
Yeah.
And even then, the shots of sharks, the massive sharks, leaping out of the water to pluck helpless imbeciles from trees is a bit much to take.
Sounds like a kid's film, sounds like a cartoon.
You know, Nathaniel, you might not have seen it, but you're making some unusually pertinent comments. You normally blather a load of hot air, but tonight, maybe this is a better way to do it, thinking about it.
Yeah, I can review films I've never seen, yeah.
Just don't bother watching it and review it and you'll make a lot more sense. In this film, Nathaniel, frankly, I was on the side of the sharks, for the most part, not the people. But unfortunately, we didn't see enough of them.
Can I ask you one question about it, Richard?
Go on.
Was there any homoerotic overtones?
Not that I noticed. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but no, not that I noticed. But bear in mind, I was paying scant attention to the actual characters.
Yeah.
Because they were so stultifyingly dull. Oh, it was all I could do to pay any attention at all. It was 4.3 overall score on IMDb as we're broadcasting this.
Mm-hmm.
So the punters aren't going for it either, are they? You know, the great unwashed.
So, and when your verdict, are you ready to give one?
Oh. Yeah, I think this is going to be in and out of the charts, Nathaniel, faster than a swimmer in the water around Amity Island. You understand that reference, Nathaniel? Just out of interest.
No, it's probably some kind of oblique movie reference.
It's a really obscure movie. No wonder you don't get it. It's Jaws! 4 out of 10.
Hello again, folks, and on the agenda for this week's classic movie slot is Deliverance, the cult classic from 1972. The plot. 4 pals are intent on seeing the Kahulawasi River before it gets turned into a lake. Lewis Medlock leads the 4 on a river rafting trip they'll never forget into the dangerous American backcountry. When the 4 get split whilst on the river, Two of the guys find themselves in the company of two hillbillies with something of a malevolent intent. And when Lewis kills one of the perpetrators, the four are reunited, but now dealing with a murder, a dead body, and of course the guilt. I gather you've seen it, Richard?
I have seen it, yes, a couple of days ago.
What did you think?
There's bumming in this, Nathaniel.
Well,
bumming.
yes, there is.
Now I know why you picked it.
Oh, I knew you were going to come out with this kind of line.
It's inevitable, isn't it? You get to choose the film. Guess what? There's bumming.
Well, you can't really call it bumming as I know bumming, Richard.
What it looked like to me.
It might come as something as a shock, but what I call bumming, that was actually rape, Richard.
What, the thing that we saw in the movie?
The thing that we saw in the movie.
Yeah, he didn't seem to mind it.
I think you're just playing dumb to try and get me riled up here, Richard.
He didn't. There was a glint in his eye. There was a glint in his eye, Nathaniel.
Richard, you're on dodgy territory. I know that's a consistent thing, but you're on really dodgy territory.
This is a tale of survival against improbable odds. It's man defiant against nature and the viciousness of his fellow man. It's the stuff of testosterone and muscle and ball sacks and hairy chests. It's revolting.
Well, that's a kind of limited way to kind of view the film, I would suggest. I did very much enjoy it, but it wasn't without flaws. I'm going to call on your movie nous here, Richard.
Okay.
You've already many times exposed me for the movie stars that I clearly am. But the classic scene within this movie.
Oh yes.
The banjo playing.
That's right. The dueling banjos.
What was it about? I mean, if the film was about reaching out to a kid with disabilities or the creative spark of making music, then okay. But it was an adventure film. What was the point of it, Richard?
I believe, I haven't read this anywhere, but my interpretation was to kind of humanise the hillbillies.
Humanise the hillbillies?
Yes. Because he belonged to the same, I don't know what the word would be, but the same clan of people that behaved in a criminal manner. And by that scene there was a bond, a bridge between the civilised and the uncivilised. I think it was the director attempting to suggest that they weren't that different after all.
Interesting take. Why cast a child then in that role?
But he was quite an unusual looking child, wasn't he?
He was
quite wizened and old.
Well, I wouldn't call him wizened and old.
Oh, he did. He looked a bit like Yoda.
He looked anything like Yoda. He looked like an unusual looking young fella who had some kind of disability.
Yeah, like Yoda.
No, nothing like Yoda at all. Now.
Right. You're squinting again as you're watching the film. I know you like to do that. You like to sit there and squint at things.
And if you thought the guy who was getting raped had a glint in his eye, I suggest you're the one doing the squinting. But I thought it was an unusual scene. It was an enjoyable scene. I didn't think it fit. There was nothing coherent about it. It didn't fit.
I think also, Nathaniel, it's an attempt by the director to almost lull you into a false sense of security.
Ah, that is interesting. That is.
Yeah, because that's quite a jolly scene, isn't it? Really.
It is very much so.
It's good fun.
Heartwarming.
Your foot's heartwarming. Your foot's tapping. There is a shade of darkness at the end of the scene when the young man won't reciprocate with a handshake.
Even more evidence for my disability theory.
Disabled people, I've seen them shaking hands, Nathaniel. I think that's quite a disparaging remark.
Well, that's disparaging so much that you put them all under the same brush.
You've got to talk, Nathaniel.
Okay. I'll carry on talking about the film then. The scene that you've already referred to, that I was dreading that you were going to refer to, I found it pretty stomach-churning. Considering the fact it was the 1970s, and as is already well known, I'm a bit of a movie spaz. I thought it was a powerful and shocking bit of cinema for the 70s. You're probably going to come out with something ridiculous that happened in the 60s and put that to bed, but if you do, so be it. That's how it was for me.
No, I'm not going to kind of try and one-up you there, I'll be honest with you. But I do have a question. Why did they choose to rape Ned Beatty? He's fat and ugly. Ronnie Cox was far more dashing.
Well, perhaps they were like animals, weren't they? So maybe they were just playing on the vulnerable.
Well, they were both vulnerable, weren't they?
Well, they were both vulnerable. But
they were both under their power. They had guns. Of
course. But in that kind of scenario, you would think that people tend to rely on more of an animal instinct. And animal instinct being what it is, they will prey on the one that they feel is less secure.
But don't you think, if you're in that situation, that you would, if you were forced to rape somebody, or if you wanted to rape somebody, would you not pick the lithe, athletic, muscular one, rather than the grotesquely bloated fat bastard?
Should we end the episode now? I don't think any listeners that we had have just switched off.
Oh, it's just a question.
It's a pretty awful question. No is the answer to your question, no.
You'd rather have the fat one?
Are we going to get into a discussion about rape while we're discussing this film, Richard, or...?
You brought it up!
No, I think you brought it up. You couldn't wait to spout about this rape scene, could you? About how fondly I saw it. But no, just in case you're not aware of what rape involves, it's I'm sure you are, because you're not as dumb as you make out. It's a power trip, Richard. It's about dominance. It's not about how attractive the person is. It could be an old lady or an old man or whatever. It's about dominance. It's not about how beautiful the victim is about it. It's about exerting your will upon another person.
I have heard this theory.
Have you? I'm glad to hear it. It doesn't sound like you have, to be honest.
I know I have heard it. I'm not sure I quite.
Oh, you don't subscribe to it?
I don't think I believe it.
You think it's the only motivation for rape is to stick your cock in some beautiful thing?
Just to have it off.
Just to have it off.
Something pretty.
Have you got anything else to say about the film, Richard?
Well, I'm guessing that you like the costume that Burt Reynolds' character was
Not
wearing,
at all.
Nathaniel.
Not again, you're putting me into a box that I don't belong in. You think any kind of gay reference is going to titillate me?
It's a fetish gear, Nathaniel, and I know you've got a bit of an eye for that.
Have I? Well, it depends.
I think so.
It depends. It depends on who's wearing it and what they're wearing. Burt Reynolds in a rubber vest doesn't do it, mate.
Didn't work?
Doesn't work at all, no. I thought it was a ridiculous choice of costume.
In many ways, Nathaniel, that's good to know.
Well, I'm glad you approve.
Now, the pace of this film was cripplingly slow.
Wasn't it? Plodded along, didn't it?
But is that a bad thing? In this age of Generation Z, 5-minute attention spans, YouTube generation, is it a bad thing that a movie and a director is brave enough to take its time?
No, it isn't. Very valid point. It isn't. It's commendable, really.
Yeah.
And you make a valid point into saying about the attention span of people these days, the immediate hit of TV and radio and so on. But even so, it did plod, didn't it? It really did. It's all very well being slow and methodical, and that's fine. But you've got to be able to justify it with some real hard-hitting material.
I thought it was just beautifully built up. That's the way I read it. And the pace